Buttigieg's Pot Save America segment on Israel went so poorly, he's cleaning up on Politico today. And he also did a fucking horrible job of trying to clean it up on Politico too. And I'm going to get to that in a second. But like the very fact that he had to run back to Politico to be like, well, actually, you know, I think, yeah, maybe I would stop weapons to Israel as is doing I wouldn't say it's a genocide, blah, 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 all this shit. Like the very fact that he felt the stress and he had to course correct implies that the pressure campaign is working, okay? Also, here's another funny moment. A student opening their live results on BBC. On that note.
So on that note, I just want to say Free Palestine and the genocide and the BBC is complicit.
All right, we're here to talk about A-level results.
BBC is complicit.
Yo, that is a swagged out white boy, dude. Liverpool City College lad. A-level students are receiving their results. He said Free Palestine. BBC's complicit.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. We're here to talk about A-level results today.
That's my go right there. That you love a swagged out white boy wearing a Kangol hat. Okay? Saying Free Palestine. You keep saying you want a Democratic Party that can advance populist policies which can help it to win, but you refuse to do a live reading stream of Kamala's new book, 107 Days, available for order now on Amazon and book retailers everywhere. That's awesome. We already covered Taylor cooking this guy. Friend of the show, Phineas, is not happy with Pete either. Yeah, of course. Phineas is a Hasanabi head. Just watch Pete ensure that he will not be the Democratic nominee. Gen Zers on TikTok as well as Phineas don't vie with Pete Buttigieg. Just ended his presidential campaign. And if Pete can't do it because he's like perhaps the best equipped to captivate like squishy libs, because he's a talker. Pete is a yapper, okay? Pete Buttigieg is gay. Grade A yapper. Just like your boy, okay? I don't mean gay as in like he has sex with men. I mean he's a grade A yapper. I can't tune into his frequency because when I hear him, I hear McKinsey speak. I hear consultants speak. I know his worldview is so distorted. He only cares about power, and he is a third way neoliberal no matter what, right? Having said that, however, a lot of liberals do want to see a young guy who can speak convincingly, who can actually destroy Republicans in the marketplace of ideas, and Pete certainly does that. But the reality is that on this issue, there is another force that is so undeniable, specifically defense of Israel, which is indefensible in the eyes of the Democratic base of support, that when he tries to do this wishy-washy bullshit, it doesn't read well. And if Pete Buttigieg can't actually communicate a middle-of-the-road attitude on Israel that voters are receptive to, then the Democrats are objectively cooked on this. And this should be a clear message that they cannot continue with this nonsense. Okay? The very fact that Buttigieg had to go to Politico, run to Politico and basically say, oh, yeah, well, I would have actually stopped the weapons transfers to Israel. Actually, I've decided now, it means that things are moving. Things are shaking. Okay? Things are moving in the positive direction. No one buys this. There are some pretty simple and straightforward words he could have said. He chose not to and continues not to, but the fact that he feels pressured to try and save is a good sign. I get it, Buttigieg said at the criticism of his podcast interview. It's important to be clear about something this enormous and this painful. It's just that it's so enormous and it's so painful that sometimes words can fail. He literally is answering his word salad response on a black and white issue with more word salad. Okay? Pete Buttigieg once had a ready answer about the U.S.-Israel relationship, likening it to a friendship in which you try to guide them to a better place. The line that he used to go over well with the Pod Save America guys, who once clapped for and nodded along with it on stage back in 2019. But this week, they no longer did. See, now the difference between me and the Pod Johns is when I hear that in 2019, I'm going, fuck you. You understand? When I hear that in 2019, I was still on that fuck Israel o'clock shit. Okay? But now it feels less lonely because it seems like the rest of the world has also finally woken up to the reality that it is actually, as a matter of fact, fuck Israel o'clock. So the Dems need to fucking figure that out and start saying fuck Israel as loud and as proud as they possibly could. The politics of the Israel-Hamas conflict in the center of gravity have changed, and Democrats are searching for solid ground across the party. Still in Kuwait 2028 presidential field, ambitious Democrats like Buttigieg are reevaluating their positions and staking out their territory. Senator Ruben Gallego said his position is evolving. Governors like Wes Moore of Maryland and Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, both staunch defenders of Israel, are keeping their powder dry and declining to engage on the nuts and bolts policy questions. Former Vice President Kamala Harris, who carried the nomination in 2024, did not comment for this story through a spokesperson. Understand something here, okay? Kamala Harris, currently a private citizen. Kamala Harris, currently a private citizen, not running for any office right now at this moment, as a private American citizen who fucking ran for president, who everybody loves to fantasize, has a very different opinion on Israel-Palestine than what she actively communicated, is still silent on the matter. Why? If she actually had real conviction, if she actually saw the dead children and thought this is immoral, she would have spoken up. Yeah, as the last presidential candidate for the party, she, for all intents and purposes, is the leader of the party. Except Kamala Harris is so bad that, like, I don't even think anyone really believes that. That's the difference. Like, she's just so bad. Democrats, like all Americans, but certainly Democrats, are sickened by what's happening and try to hold several things in mind at the same time, all of which can be true. That has to happen. His next killing has to end, former Transportation Secretary told. Yeah, I wonder what her stepdaughter is saying to her right now, because Ella is insanely vocal on Palestine. Yeah, that's the other side of the story. It's not like she doesn't have anybody fucking around her. Ella Emhoff is Kamala Harris' stepdaughter. She is Doug's child, okay? And she is and has been very vocal about Palestine. Very vocal. She has fundraised for UNRWA while Kamala Harris was running for president, okay? So it's not like she has nobody in her corner that could just, like, tell her what's what. The hostages have to come home, and the people of Gaza need aid unimpeded. And all should be happening immediately. It was a sharper response in his interview with Pod Save America Jon Favreau when he received swift blowback for a non-answer. When your friend kills 60,000 people and starves an entire population for months at a time, shouldn't the question be, why the fuck am I friends with this guy? Said a Democratic strategist who was in the room with Buttigieg back in 2019, whose positions have changed since then. The strategist is unaligned among the current crop of potential candidates. I get it, Buttigieg said at the criticism of his podcast interview. It's important to be clear about something enormous and painful. It's just that it's so enormous and it's so painful that sometimes words can fail. Again, more word salad when he is supposed to be describing why he gave a word salad answer to a black and white issue. The response to Buttigieg, normally one of the Democratic Party's most skilled communicators, was telling. Democrats have recalibrated on Israel, and that's already reverberating across the shadow campaign trail as the U.S. relationship with Israel is fast becoming a key litmus test ahead of the 2028 Democratic primary. The Democratic National Committee is weighing two different resolutions on the matter, with the progressives pushing for elected Democrats to endorse an arms embargo on Israel and recognize the Palestinian state. Buttigieg said he would have signed on Senator President Bernie Sanders' proposed arms embargo against Israel, would recognize Palestine as a part of a two-state solution, and thought the U.S. should not pass another 10-year agreement. And let me tell you, when you actually hear him talk, you will realize that he is still on that bullshit, okay? Hate to report to you that Pete Buttigieg is still on that bullshit.